and then I'll hand over to you, Roy.
Very good. Well, good morning or good afternoon, depending where you guys are located. My name is Roy Malone. I'm the Managing Director for Definitive Group, and we're also now part of the Access Group, which is UK, I call it a conglomerate. We're the second largest tech company in the UK now, so we're part of a big family. So what I'm going to show you today is a little bit about our solution, just as a taster, like a normal one-on-one presentation, roughly speaking, an hour and a half, 2 hours in the presentation. But I'll give you a taste of some of the features and options we have. I'll kind of focus more so around the construction mining space, oil and gas, if there's anyone in that space, because those three are quite similar. Definitive as a product is a true cloud solution, so anywhere, anytime, any device. And that also includes 2 native apps, both on iOS and Android. So it covers the 2 major platforms. What I'm going to show you today is I'll start with the end user experience, so the employees and what they will see and how they can potentially interact with the technology. And everything I show today is just ideas of how potentially you can deploy it in your own organization. Everyone will come at it from a different part of the journey in the technology roadmap. And the project management side of things as you implement is just as important as the change management. So it is, if you're coming from paper or antique kind of solutions, the change management is crucial to not try to go big bang day one, because you won't get that user acceptance as you anticipate. So there's ways you can roll out the technology, we call it breadcrumbs, and then slowly you'll get the business outcomes over the 3, 6, 12 months, depending how big the organization is. So what I'll start with first is what we call the time clock app. So what I'm going to do is bring up my phone, and you'll be able to see that in a moment. All right, so with the time clock app, again, as I alluded to before, it's both available on Apple and Android, or the Google Play Store. So this time clock app is very much about fixed locations. So where you've got a location like a workshop, a head office, where someone will always come, enter or leave from that location, this is this concept. It's just one of many options of the way you can capture time, but it is one that you can download as many time clocks as you like and install it anywhere you like. What you are installing it on is either an iPad or an Android tablet, okay? Now, the technology we use with our tablets is NFC. So for those who are Apple users, you do need to buy a little NFC reader. They come in different sizes depending on what models you want. And that is what we essentially call it tap and go. So it's just like our credit cards, we tap and go, or public transport cards. The technology is NFC, it's in pretty much everything nowadays. And it's not unique just to Definitive. It means you can use your security cards if you've already got it, if you've got student cards or ID cards to get into premises, just use the same technology that you've already got. So you're not introducing another layer for an employee to carry. But the way it works is essentially, I'm using an Opal card. So for those in New South Wales, public transport card, I tap on it and then I'll come up on screen. And in my case, I'm pretending I'm Dell for today. So if I'm going to clock off for the day and I realize I haven't clocked on, I would do what we call a forgot event. And I'll say I forgot to clock on and then correct my time. And that will go to the manager for approval. But in my case, Dell's come in for her shift. Let's say she was due to start at 10 a.m. She's clocked in at 10:06. This might now be enough that it's outside, say, a 5-minute grace period or your tolerance. It will send it to the manager for approval once they clock off, okay, for the day. But Dell is a simple case of what the technology can do. So she rocks in at the day, she clocks on, she finishes the day, she clocks off. We can also ask certain questions about someone's shift, okay? So these, we call it additional fields, or under the covers, it's actually called custom fields. And what this is you can drive different payment and different rules based on these selection and these options. So in the construction space, we definitely know a lot of the awards will have inclement weather. So where that shift was inclement weather or, raining, they can tick this. And in this case, under the award, it will trigger off payments, of double time and a half, whatever the cases are. If you didn't get a break for your lunch, you can say, no, and that might trigger off more penalties. Again, we can create whatever fields you like, and basically it can either be used purely for reporting purposes or it could be used to drive payment rules when it comes to payroll. Okay, so again, the user experience will change depending what the end user can see. Now, the next employee that I'm going to clock on is, who is it? Molly. So Molly can either clock on, just like Dell could, and that will use what we call all her primary duties. So we call it projects, work orders, locations, departments, and roles. They're what we call the costing dimensions. And basically, by her hitting clock on, we'll just default to whatever her primary is on our master record. But there's something different with Molly. She has a change duties button. And what she can do is she can select what role she's working. So it caters for, in our system, that someone can work 2 different roles or 3 different roles and be paid completely different based on the duty they're doing. So the specialist role will pay her under the enterprise agreement. The supervisor role pays her under a salary, okay, based on the FTE. So again, completely different. All the user would do is select what they're doing. And if that differs to what we call the work schedule or the roster, it goes for approval. Okay, so anytime something differs to what's being set, it goes for approval. Moving on, Annabelle is very similar to Molly, okay? She can clock on or she can change her duties. But when she hits change duties, she actually has to select what mine site she's working on in this case, okay? So either Telfer or Tropicana. Now, if I actually pick Telfer, what it does, it will then say, okay, in this particular mine site, you can work in 2 different departments, in structures or water, okay? So by selecting the costing dimension, what it's doing under the covers automatically, which will send it back to your ERP system, is it will move all the wages, the super, the payroll tax, the work cover, the leave of ship. Everything is fully job costed automatically based on the selection of that individual or how they job cost their timesheets. Now, that was demonstrating a tap and go. In real cases, people will naturally forget their devices or their tokens or stickers, and you don't want to fall back to paper. So you do allow them to use the keypad, but the difference when they use the keypad, it will automatically activate the camera, okay? So you see here, the camera's activated itself because I've used my PIN number or my employee number. And when I try clock in or change a duty, it automatically says there's no face in the camera. So as soon as I put my face in the camera, it'll go green. Regardless if I'm inside the grace periods or not, it will send this timesheet off for approval, okay? So it's a way the manager can see the timesheet, the photo with it, just in case their mate's trying to clock him in and clock him out. Again, it's just a way to prevent the buddy system, okay? Now, the thing you see with Hugh is he can select any of these roles, any of these jobs, sorry, where if you saw with Annabelle, she could only select the 2. So again, depending on the end user, the technology will change to show them what they can or can't do. So let's pick BHP, and then it knows there's a work order, and then they'll select the work order. I'm doing drafting labor. He also can work different shift types. And again, he'll say I'm doing the night shift and then clock on for those, okay? So again, there's the questions and the responses of the screen will dynamically change depending on what it needs to capture from the end user. A lot of clients use this for their contractors, their volunteers, or obviously their wage employees to capture the start and finish times to automate the payroll outcome, okay? That's one option. The other option that you see on the screen is the definitive with the number 13 on it. That's all about myself. So me as an employee or as a contractor or as a student, that's all about me. If I'm a manager, it will also, and depending on my permissions, will show me access of what I've got about my team. So I'm on an iPhone. It just uses my Face ID, and normally it will take me into the dashboard. Now, for today's demonstration, I am logged in as myself, okay? So this is real data, all about myself and my team, and I'm an admin in the business. So I've got full permissions to see all these features available in the app. If I was just a standard casual or contractor, I'm probably not going to, well, I definitely shouldn't be seeing things to do with leave. If I don't want people to clock in and clock out, they're not going to see things like clock in. If they're not a manager, they're not going to see anything to do with Teams. Again, the screen would display what's set up based on their permissions automatically. Whether it's through the app or through the web, it's all one permission group and will dynamically change in real time if the permission group changes. Now, to keep on the theme of capturing time through time clocks. So we've got here, I've clicked on the time clock option. this is a great way to capture time when your workforce works in different locations, okay? So if they're doing servicing, maintenance, they're not always going to the same place. This is another way you can capture time. So you can see here, I clocked in 14 minutes ago because I realized I didn't even clock in when I started my day. So I've done what we call a forgot event, which will now send this timesheet to my manager for approval, okay? However, what I'm going to do now is, let's say I'm working on sales. So in my organization, as you can see, with myself and all my team, we all clock in and clock out, and we book our times to the different jobs. So I've just booked my time to sales, and what it does, it pings me on the GPS map of where I've done that change duty event, and now moves all my costs to the sales project, okay? And that's how easy it is to do what we call the personal time clock. Both time clocks also work in offline mode. So if the internet drops for any reason, or you're in a remote location, there is no reason why an employee can't still clock in and clock out, because the app will automatically allow it to work in offline mode, capture the data. Once you go back into communications or Wi-Fi or cellular, it will send that data up automatically, okay? That's dependent if they've got battery life, right? That's the only excuse they've really got. They've got to have battery life. All right, that was time clocks being fixed. Personal time clocks being remote workforce, working from home, or those kind of styles, or I'm just going to do a timesheet, okay? There's no right or wrong, okay? I'm doing a timesheet. Just the issue with timesheets, and it's not an issue, it's just one of the downsides is it's after the fact, okay? So if I go do a 13-hour day, and my organization has a company policy that I should not be doing more than 12 hours, if I'm clocking in and clocking out, it can be sending real-time alerts to different stakeholders in the organization to prevent me hitting 12 hours, okay, if you're using time clocks. If you're doing a timesheet, and I book to R&D, I'll book it to a work order or project management, and then I go put in 10 to 10, then it's automatically going to go, okay, well, you've done the 12 hours now. I will now notify the relevant stakeholders that you've breached the company policy. So it's reactive when you're doing timesheets, where time clocks is you're trying to prevent. They both have a benefit. So timesheet is great when you're doing lots of different jobs in a day and you don't want to stop and clock in and clock out. You do it after the day, no problems. But if you've got fatigue management and you're really trying to worry and prevent people exceeding hours, or trying to prevent them from doing overtime so you don't incur those additional costs, then time clocks is the way to go. So you can see here, I'm going to click on the widget for my hours. If I only do 8 hours today, 8 hours Thursday and Friday, so my 40-hour week, I'm going to do 50 hours this week, okay? So it's going to know exactly where I'm going to be based on the actuals for the last 2 days, plus the next 3 days of what my roster is, okay? So if you're new in your business, you're trying to, overtime kicks in at 45 hours, 40 hours, whatever it is, this can prevent, so you can see here, on Friday, it's already issued me what we call a warning. And a warning's in yellow, orange is a critical, and a red is a breach notice. But what it's telling me is if you go over 50 hours, you're going to be issued a warning for the week. So not only do we look at a day in our configuration, we look at a week. Some organizations need to look at a 28-day period. Some organization needs to look at a 304-hour running rule, depending on the awards or enterprise agreements are attached to it, okay? It's all about prevention, and that's the key. Now, you can see I'm not a great example of this, where I've breached company policy, because on Monday, I had to get ready for my board meeting, but again, I was issued a breach notice of doing a 14-hour day, okay? But again, not a big issue with myself, but if I was to drive home after 12 hours a day, the company would be exposed and the directors would be exposed if I had an accident, okay? So this is where the concept comes into play. Now, leave history, being a date-driven system. Now, I haven't touched on what a date-driven system means, but it is a very, very handy feature throughout our product. So traditional payroll solutions that you would see, or workforce management solution, is very focused around a pay cycle, whether it's a week, fortnight, or month, whatever the pay cycle of those individuals are. With Definitive, that is purely a concept to deliver payroll. That's all it is. So if you're on a fortnightly pay, it's going to obviously pay you on a fortnightly pay. But everything in the system looks at a day. So when we see reporting in a moment, you're going to see the fact of, I can see every cost element that someone worked on X job on the 17th of November on this project, this work order, in this location, this department, down to what pay period it was paid in. So you can get real costing down to an individual day. The power of a date-driven system is you can retrospectively change something. So for example, your enterprise agreement expires, you go through your negotiation periods, 3 months later, it's approved by Fair Work, and there's a requirement to backdate it a month. Everyone knows in payroll how much of a pain in the butt that is to do back pays. With Definitive, you simply cease the old. So let's say it was meant to commence on the 1st of September. I would cease the old on the award rules for the 31st of August, commence the new changes on the 1st of September. Even though it's after the fact, the system will automatically recalculate itself in the next pay run that you open, and automatically work out all the super, the payroll tax, the work cover, construction, long service leave, everything on the way it should have been paid. So it's very, very powerful. If you're doing it proactive, because you know your enterprise agreement's going to change, say the 1st of January, you can make that change. And even if it's halfway through a pay cycle, it knows how to prorata those payments, okay? So that's the power of a date-driven system. And the reason I touch on it now is because you can see my leave history. So regardless of a leave application, we don't just know the start and end date of a leave application. We know how many Tuesdays, how many Fridays is in that date range. So you can see here, I love Fridays off. I've had 41 Fridays off since I've been employed in Definitive. Big fan. Now, why that is important is not so much around annual leave, okay? That is a great way to manage people's time and annual leave days if you're trying to be proactive and get them to take time off. But the focus on the reason for this widget is to show people personal leave. So what a lot of people underestimate is personal leave is a big leakage in pretty much every business. Not all, but in a vast majority of businesses that we look at. So the most common day off for actual personal leave is Wednesdays. It's Y generations and it's males. So they're the interesting stats when we look at our full portfolio of clients. That is the most common day off. Your culture might be slightly different, but that's the average. Now, the other interesting fact is utilization. So people are taking, on average, 70% of their personal leave, so 7 days a year. Now, if you think of a workplace that has 100 employees, just at a very small level, 100 employees, and they all are permanent employees and taking 7 days off their labor costs. Now, in organizations where it's overhead, generally speaking, people will cover those roles for those short periods of time. But where you're in that construction, you're building stuff, you've got to fill the gaps. Because you're all about utilizations to completion, okay? So that's big cost, big leakage, using contractors, using casual pools to fill those gaps. So understand the data and you'll get the business outcomes. That's the whole purpose behind Definitive. For those who are rostered, they'll be issued their roster electronically. Those who are casuals will accept or reject their shifts, or you can get everyone to accept and reject their shifts, okay? That is a compliance obligation that's required from the 27th of September if you're not aware of that. So down in that white area, you'll see a big green tick, big green cross, and we explain it to those youngies with Tinder, swipe left, swipe right, and you'll see your future shifts, okay? So very, very simple to get all those future shifts, depending how far you've published your roster. If you're doing a shutdown and you've only done it 12 days ahead, they'll only see 12 days ahead. But again, that's completely up to the organization, how far they publish. All right, team listing, what's really handy? If I needed to call an individual, again, these are my permissions because I can see who reports under me in the org chart. Let's say Tanya hasn't come to work and I needed to call her. I can just tap on her phone and I can call her straight away, all from my mobile phone. Very easy to access that data, okay? An employee can't go delete an email address, a phone number, a home address without replacing it with something. So then things like payroll and SuperStream doesn't fall over when it comes to lodging stuff to the HO with SDP, okay? Same again, next of kin. If I break my leg and my HR manager needs to quickly call them, pointless calling my wife, she never picks up, call my mother-in-law, and again, I can access it. When you use that onboarding module where they sign their employment contracts, company policies, all that kind of stuff, these are mandatory fields. So again, it's always there. Numbers are perfectly formatted for those who are Virgos on the room. Addresses, use Google Maps or Apple Maps. Again, everything's perfectly formatted. Where you guys are a very compliance orientated kind of rosters, we have additional modules like compliance. So if you need certain tickets, licenses, the most common right now, especially in WA, is mandatory vaccinations with COVID, okay? You can capture all that data in here And as you try roster people, if that's a requirement to deliver that business shift, it will tell you they're not compliant because they don't have the relevant tickets, certifications, or licenses. In our organisation, we all got to have a police clearance. So again, if I needed to access it, I can easily come in here, drill down, open it. I can email it off, SMS it, all those kind of things, okay? So very, very easy to access that data. I'm just going to kill that, come back in there. So look at my face. Very, very powerful, heaps of options, getting pay slips. They can access all the current financial years and go back to previous years. You can open up a pay slip, download it. They can physically see a copy of their pay slip. They can email it off, SMS it. If there's any comments, all pay slips can be customized, but generally speaking, keep a clean pay slip so employees don't come back with employee queries. Sorry about it's going grey. That's why I killed the app before. I'm on a beta release. Apple bloody did their iOS 15 update, and they've changed all the menu bars of the way you share documents now. Apple, right? Leave requests. So one of the common things you constantly hear is people put in leave. At the point in time they put in leave, they had a balance. Now they go put in leave for Easter, and then, suddenly they don't have a balance because of a future leave application. Definitive handles all that automatically, assuming it's already approved, okay? So let me show you an edge case. So coming in, I want to take annual leave. For our organisation, we have a couple of leave reasons associated to different leave types. And so when you take annual leave, you can either say, I've exhausted all my personal leave. HR really needs to see that because there potentially could be a problem with an individual that they want to get on top of to see, is there a medical illness? Do you need to work from home? Is there something that's stressing you out? Whatever the cases are. You've got recreational, most common reason that you'll see on annual leave. And under contractual hours, that's flexible working arrangements. We have that in our organisation. Look, if you really, for whatever reason, can't manage a 38-hour day, a week, then you could top yourself up with annual leave to get you contractual, okay? Assuming you want to be paid. Now, let's say I'm keen to take leave off around the 20th of December, and I want to take it off to about the 10th, okay? So I pick my dates, pretty standard. I can do part day leave requests as well. So if the boss said to me, Roy, I still need you in on Monday because you've got a board meeting, I could do a part day leave request on Monday. Okay, so nice and easy to do part days. Very common with personal leave where someone's come into work, you've gone, man, you're so sick, go home. You can do a part day leave request. That's what the idea is behind that. Attachments, this will connect to your camera roll. So if there's a medical notice or certificate, they can connect to the camera roll, take the picture. Let's put that on that, boom. And again, that will automatically attach it to that document. And then the manager can now see that attachment. You can add any notes, go on a broom or whatever the cases are. Now, coming back to my point of forecasting leave, the system would tell you what your current balance was as of the last period end date that you got paid up to. So I'm a monthly paid employee, 31st of October is what I got paid up to. And yes, I do have a lot of leave, 835 hours, okay? I'm owed at that point in time. But because I've requested leave up to the 10th of January, as you can see up here, it's then projected the leave application up to that point in time. So what it's saying is from the 1st of November to the 10th of January, you'll be owed another 28 hours, all right? You had no leave approved before the 20th of December, okay? And you have no leave approved after the 10th of January. So your true available balance is 863 hours, all right? And it shows me my history. So again, if people are more focused around personally, we'll see what their common day off. Press submit, boom, off that goes to the manager for approval. Now, when a manager gets that leave request, the identical screen, the only difference is, besides an approve or reject button, is it will say who else is on leave in your team at the same time, okay? So it's very easy to, again, see what's going on, whether something's rejected, withdrawn, partially approved. You'll see all the different colors of the rainbows in our system, all right? So that's a leave request. Now I'm going to show you one more thing in the app. Yes, you can do lots of other things, update bank details, get annual statements, update availability. There's a lot in here that you can do if you give access to the end users. And if you do have multiple entities, it's one logon and you can bounce between the different entities. So you can see here, we've got two entities, Proactive Payroll. In this entity, I'm only a manager. So I can easily come in here, Beck's done a 10-hour day. I can easily see what she's booked her time to marketing. I can have a look at clock in. She's all done it all in our West Perth office. Happy days, you know, approve, or I can do bulk approvals, okay? All right, so the last thing I'm going to show you in the app is how we use our announcement feature. And this is a great tool to communicate to employees in real time and control governance and compliance. So, it's this new Apple thing. Hang on, gotta close that. So, how that works? Just because I'm logged in as myself, I'm going to do it through the web. Okay. So I've got the permission to issue what we call announcements. Okay. So under here, this is the web view. I've got this announcement entry. So I'm going to issue a new announcement. And let's say, you know, it's a running joke in WA that, you know, our dictator, Mark McGarry, doesn't want to open up anything, right? It's like bloody communist state. COVID update, WA finally getting to 90%, whatever. He'll probably change that percentage, let's be real. Okay, so let's say the company has a beautiful policy of, you know, how you're now going to be involved and the freedoms that you'll now have in travel or whatever the company policy wants to be, right? So let's find a document that I'm going to load up. All right, let's pick that, okay? Let's pretend that's the company policy. Now, I'm going to require the individual, being myself, to sign this document to say, I've understood and I acknowledge this policy. Now, when I do that, I've got a choice when I'm setting out an announcement that this document will now file it in on my master record once I've acknowledged it, okay? So these will be whatever folders HR payroll set up. Please read and sign, okay? Type whatever story you like. You can change font sizes, colors, all that kind of stuff. Make it as pretty as you like, okay? Now, standard announcement is purely like, this Friday, guys, we have a barbecue, tools down at 1 p.m., okay? Just an FYI, people can dismiss it, ignore it. Requires acknowledgement, you physically need them to sign, okay? That's what acknowledgement means. Requires acknowledgement and response is, yes, I do need you to sign, but I've also got some questions for you. So a common one that we see is, do you fully understand the company policy? Or are you okay campaigns? Are you actually okay? Do you need to talk to someone? So, you know, are you okay? Yes, no. So I can have as many questions as I like to the end user and as many options to each question. Would like a chat, okay? Now, I can send it to all employees in the organization, or I can specify who it goes to. So in my case, being the live company, I don't want to send it to everyone. I only want to send it to people with the role of managing director definitive. So if there's 5 people in that role, all 5 people will be notified of this company announcement. You could do it at a department level, a location, a job level, individual level. And yes, I do want to notify them. Or I can set it to an ongoing policy. So if it's just a once-off, are you okay campaign, boom, it's a once-off announcement, okay? Or cyclone warnings, anything, shutdowns, flooding, whatever the cases are. Where it's like drugs and alcohol policies, bullying, harassments, all those kind of ongoing company policies, you set it to ongoing. And what that means is, if I now get promoted into the managing director role and I haven't read this policy, it will send it to me, okay? So that's what the ongoing functionality does. All right, so now I've done that, I'm going to come back into my phone and I'm going to show you what it looks like for the end user. All right, coming in here, I got a push notification instantly set, okay? So nice and easy, I got a push notification. So I click on that. Now what happens is it won't let me into the app, okay? I can't clock in, I can't clock out, I can't do approvals, I can't do anything until I acknowledge this company policy about the COVID update, okay? So it'll force me to download all the attachments. If there's 5 attachments, it'll make you download all 5 attachments. Once you have downloaded the attachments and read whatever they wanted you to read, the button will automatically change to acknowledge. You press acknowledge. Are you okay? Yes, I am. So it will take that question with my response and also my autograph and append it to a new page on that document, file it in on your master record, and now it'll let you in the app to do your day-to-day. This will control at the app level, and it will also control at the web level. So they can't bypass it the minute you say I require acknowledgement. And you can see here real life cases, how we do our data breach policies, payroll obligations, fitness to work, working from home, all those kind of things. This is how we do it, okay? All right, hooking into the web now. Let's explain that. I'm gonna get rid of this thing. Okay, cool. Let me just delete that before HR gets upset. All right. So hooking into the web, again, everything you saw in the app, you can do in the web, okay? So there's no issues with that. Again, it just comes down to end users. Generally speaking, we see very consistently over 80+%, it's about 84% of your end users will use the mobile apps, not the web. The people that we generally see using the web are either what we call super admins, people, you know, that's got full payroll HR access, people that are doing rosters or reporting, okay? And also, interesting enough, baby boomers. They much prefer to use the web than to use the mobile apps. So there you go. Now, I'm logged in as an admin. Again, think of it like a HR manager's access, full access, one record for the lifetime of the employee. If I was hired, terminated, rehired, no problems at all, okay? You'll see all the hire reasons. If you're using hire reasons, you know, you can use different years of service if they've been secondment from another business unit. Terminations, you can use, you've got the ATO categories, so you have to use one of those, but then you can come up with your own combination. So recommend for rehire, don't rehire, whatever it is, okay? Now, coming into paid policies, I touched on, tax, quickly touch on it. If you are paying contractors through Definitive, it will correctly lodge that to the ATO for you, so no issues at all with that. Super's fully integrated into the platform. So as you type a super fund in, whether it's through an employee onboarding user experience or you're doing it through the web manually, this is a live feed off the ATO, okay? And it will automatically know the USI ABN, or if it's a self-manager, will know to get the ESA and bank details off the end user. As I alluded to before, being date-driven, if someone wanted to do a salary sacrifice up to the 31st of December, no issues, you give it a cease date. If someone said, don't commit to my salary sacrifice for the 1st of January, you don't have to hold on to that piece of paper anymore. You just future date that transaction and it'll pick it up. Same with salary increases, day rates, all those kind of things. It's all date driven. So you can see here his full history since he's been employed and what his financial FTE was at that point in time. Projects, if you're locking them down to certain jobs, you lock it down. Otherwise, they can only see these jobs. So he will never see Cannington Store, Murray or Telfar or Tropicana prior to the 1st of January. So if you try to do a timesheet for the 31st of December, he will never see any of those 4 jobs. He will only see the W21 job. So everything is in sync. Get the master record set up correctly. The technology will display what it needs to for the end user. Same with roles. If there's multiple roles, you've got grandfathering clauses where someone's on this enterprise agreement that's paid completely different, or someone's on a day rate or multiple tasks, not an issue. Especially for those who've got apprentices and trainees. We all know when it comes to payroll tax, it's a pain in the butt, the reconciliation. Being date-driven, we know exactly the times and points they were an apprentice or a trainee versus being a qualified tradesperson. Okay, so again, never need to keep those spreadsheets anymore because we've got all the data in the system to report on. So you can see here, if I was saying I'm a maintenance supervisor and I was always to pay you as a day rate of $1,000, I could easily do that. Okay, that's how easy it is. Right, I'm going to pay a day rate of $1,000. It does want to know what is the hours in a working day. So I might say that's based on an 8-hour day. And the reason for that is you can build rules to say, okay, well, if they don't do an 8-hour day, I prorata that payment. Okay. Otherwise, I might say, right, I only pay half of it. So to know half, it knows it's 4 hours. Okay. So again, that's the method behind the madness there. All right. We've got plant and equipment modules, very popular in construction mining. Where you're booking time to assets. So whether it's to an excavator, a forklift, to vehicles, you're booking the time to not only the asset, but to a job, to a work order, to a location or a department, okay? So again, that's what that is. And some assets won't be reportable. You know, an iPhone, a laptop, you're not reporting that, so you're not booking time to it. So again, different assets can have different classes in it. The great thing behind this is we're just purely the mechanism to capture the data on the asset, all the costing dimensions, and to send that data back to an ERP, okay? The plant and equipment module also links into our compliance module. If you've got both of them, usually most clients will go hand in hand, because what it can do is to say, to use a forklift, you must have a forklift license. To use this excavator, you must have this particular ticket. So before you even assign it to an individual, it's checking those qualifications checks off, okay? That's how all the things come together. Now, I'll come into custom fields, past all the others. If we don't have a field that you need to report on, And a common one is the COVID status of late. Okay, we don't have that as standard, and we probably will never build that as standard. You know, it's very much a one focus structure, and everyone has a slightly different way of doing it. So create it as a custom field. You can have as many as you like, and again, that will automatically link to the reporting engine for you. Common one in most industries that have big government contracts or big corporate contracts. You know, are you an Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander if you're doing those ratio reporting? Certainly in the construction game, your construction long service leave number. So we can automate your Q leave, we can automate your My leave, whatever the state of construction long service leave. This is how we automate it, okay? We've got to get your number. We do automatically the file upload that you can just load into the relevant state and territory for the construction. All right, and you can even have things being date-driven, okay? So construction long service leave is, generally speaking, a date-driven capability, because sometimes they come off a job that doesn't require that payment, or they've been promoted into a supervisor's role, which they're no longer doing the construction element. So again, we make these things date-driven custom fields. All right, pumping through, I won't cover onboarding, but onboarding, as I alluded to before, is everything to do with getting your employment contract, signing it, doing your banking, tax, super, and a couple of those other personal data. It's all electronic, whether it's on a phone, whether it's on a tablet, or the web, no issues to do your employee onboarding user experience. We do have some very exciting features coming with onboarding in our January release. Unfortunately, it's not making our Christmas release. We've had a few hurdles getting a release out at the moment. But the exciting features is you'll now be able to use those custom fields that I showed you before, like your COVID status, and ask the individuals as you're onboarding, do they have their COVID vaccination? Are they single, double, or they're on booster? You can ask them, are they an Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander? So you can ask them questions as part of the onboard now. You can also get them to preload in their compliance and licenses, okay? So if you know they've got certain tickets for their roles, you could pre-ask those questions. They'll load that supporting document, and then HR can verify it before they approve that onboarding. And then what else? And then multiple templates. And multiple templates simply means I've got an onboarding, and when I hire a blue collar worker, these are all the documentations, uniform stuff that I need to get off them, and tailor that onboarding basically as a pack. So you don't have to set it up each time. And then if I'm doing an office staff, it's a completely different user experience, and I'm sending and requiring this documentation. So onboarding templates, fantastic, will be a great feature add. And we normally do a release every month, with the exception of this month, just because we've hit a bit of a bottleneck with ATO and this bloody SDP2. They're just so slow. But anyway, it's another saga over beers. All right, rostering. This is, if you don't have to obviously use rostering, but what is very powerful about rostering, I'll just go back to last month, I haven't set up November properly, is you can get costing projections, okay? Now, this is on the basis you have that permission activated. I'm just gonna change my permission back. Now, a roster you can see per week, a fortnight, month, or up to 90 days, okay? Again, that's purely down to the individual looking at a roster. All that is cosmetics, okay? It's how much data do you want to see on screen at once, okay? So you can see I've got mine at a month view. So I've got it up to a month, and I've got, 100 plus people in my roster, all right? You do learn the different colors of the rainbows, whether it's someone's accepted shift, it's impending, there's warnings of issues, as I alluded to before. If you don't have the right tickets or certifications for that shift, it will come up in orange. If issues is stop, means you're trying to give someone a shift, they've already accepted another shift, those kind of things. You'll see also work schedules. Work schedules is a bit different to rostering, but same outcome. Work schedules is if I do a 2-in-1 swing, so a 21-day cycle, and it just keeps repeating that same cycle until you tell it, here's the cease date. Rosters is, generally speaking, for casual shutdown work, so those kind of things where you're filling gaps, jobs are constantly changing, and demand is required, okay? So again, we show you both in the rostering, and the benefit of that, including leave, is if someone's on a 2-in-1 swing, Barry misses the plane ride up on site, and you've got to swap some, and you've got to hold back Michael, you can just quickly change his work schedule without touching his master record in the roster, okay? So that's the benefit of it. Now, I came back to you and talked about cost, okay? So picking on these shifts here, let's pick on these 4 shifts, all right? I can see from 8 to 10 a.m., only a 2-hour shift, it's a Sunday penalty, annual leave accrual, et cetera, et cetera. It will show you every single cost to incur that Sunday, the 3rd of October shift, based on what that person's configured in Telfer, as a retail assistant in WA, in the water department, etc., etc. Takes the shift, sticks it through the award, sticks it through the payroll engine, and spits you out all the costs. Okay. Again, we can go through. I'm going to pick on one here. There's some issues. This employee is not assigned to work on the Boston Shaker job. They told you that they're not usually available to work on a Tuesday. So again, different warnings, different escalations, but different costs always coming through. Okay. Now, the benefit of showing costs is not to see, okay, I've got 100 blokes on my roster, and you might just want to look at the total cost at the bottom left, or the total cost per day, and that might be okay. But what we usually say, to save 1 to 2% of your labour costs, you need to know what is the levers you've got to move. Now, for anyone that's paid a salary, the only levers you've generally got to move, because your cost is fixed, is the overtime bits. So this is where you can say, right, only show me cost when penalty rates are used, not Sunday leave. I'm sure I've got Sunday penalty here somewhere. Yeah, there we go. So anytime Sunday penalty is used, time and a half, double time, whatever it is, only show me costs when those costs are incurred, because then it allows you to then focus your eyes and your attention. Hang on, I'm going to swap those shifts out because I don't want to be paying Sunday loading and I don't want to be paying double time. So that's the idea about drilling down where you see costs. And you can see here, well, obviously this one's all Sunday, so they're all going to be kicking into Sunday loading. Okay, but if I needed to remove it, I could just quickly remove those 2 shifts. And away, and that's how easy it is to remove shifts. Okay, all add shifts, all that stuff. That's a little bit. There's a lot you can go into rostering, but that's a little highlight there. Reporting engine. Obviously, you know, everything that goes in, you want to be able to get it out and report on it. One of the things I should have mentioned in the early stage is Definitive is API driven. Okay, so what I mean by that is every single button I've been clicking on today in the mobile or the web has an API behind it. So we don't have to be the king of everything. You might already have a great rostering system that's integrated into your ERP, no problems. Just integrate it back to Definitive. So we're just a receiver of what that shift is, okay? So depending on the size of organizations, you might have different, you know, you might have invested in Workday. A big global clients, you know, spend millions on those products. They're not going to bin it. So they'll integrate it back to Definitive, or vice versa. You take data from Definitive and send it to somewhere else. No problems. It's full API driven, and we give you what you call the keys to the kingdom. It's up to you how you plug and play. Okay. Now, data, I can just drag columns off the report if I don't want the data in the report. If I wanted a quick head count, I can grab gender. I find that's the quickest one to do it on. And I know in my business, I've got 100 head counts, being 66% females, 34 males. Very, very easy to see that, okay? Now, this is designed for those who want to play with data in Excel, okay? There's a lot of columns and data in every single one of these reports that you see on screen. There's different data sets, okay? So if I wanted to say, right, who's a receptionist? I could just quickly start typing it, okay? And then it'll find that word receptionist. Where's it found it, okay? It's found it here in the org chart, and then it's also found it here in their primary role, all right? So nice and easy. And all those custom fields I alluded to before, it adds it to the end of the report. So you're not coming back to us or Thrive to get any custom reports developed, because it will automatically do it for you. You can save it, call it Dave's report, Margaret's report, whatever the filters are, it will remember exactly how you left it and filter it back to the same way. If you took the wrong fields off, it's simply just drag it back on, take it out of the bucket, put it back in. Dump it to Excel, do whatever you want. Now, dynamic mode is great for those users not good with pivot tables in Excel, okay? So basically, it's a dumbed down version of pivot tables. So I've saved one here, genders report by state, by employment status, by gender diversity. Again, coming back to my magic number of 100. So let's say I've only got one state of operation, so location is pretty irrelevant. I just want to know how many contractors I have. I have 5, 1 being male, 4 being female, okay? Now, I want to know what was that like in June 2019, okay? The power of a date-driven system is we know exactly what the system looked like point in time, okay? So I hit refresh, and at that point in time, June 2016, I went from 100. So I've actually gone from 115 down to 100 headcount. So I've dropped 5, okay? And everyone knows in management, if you wow people with charts and graph, you could take away, you could tell a different story, right? So again, very, very simple to get data out. Now, the payroll reporting is the one that keeps the accountants super happy. I alluded to before, regardless of your pay cycle, that's just to fulfill your obligations as a business to the ATO and to your employees. But you can now see cost that per day of the week. So I'm just going to group it by pay item. So assume I'm a CFO looking at my data and I go, right, who got paid Sunday penalty? It tells me who the individuals was. I'll probably be questioning why Vince of volunteers getting paid. The physical date that they actually worked, the day of the week, the units, the rate, the GL code, the role they booked it to, the project, the location, department, what work order, and even what pay period. So you can do a quick analysis on screen by quickly summing it. You know, I've got the sum of $2,710 or the average of $542 per shift. And again, what the power is to give data back to your end users. So say your project managers say, right, here's your cost of your project by day of the week. Why are we blowing out on Sundays, guys? Or why are we giving bonuses out on Sundays? Like, what happened, okay? And again, it's all up to you on how you use this data. A lot of people plug this data into BI tools like Power BI and Microsoft, and again, run whatever dashboards they want. They might take data from the ERP, being the budgets, take the real data from Definitive, being the real cost, and then report out. Now, payroll costs, as I alluded to before, is real costs that hit the business. Time and attendance is real hours people did to deliver business outcomes. So using my business as an example, I go do that 14-hour day, good on me, high five me. However, I'm only paid for 7.6 hours. So my financial FTE is 7.6 hours and whatever that cost is. But my actual cost to deliver that business outcome was at a 14-hour day. So I'm under-resourced to deliver business outcomes if that's my daily norm, okay? And that's how we as a business in growth mode measure utilization. What is the real hours people are doing? So then we can work out, are they under-resourced? How do we get ahead of the curve rather than being reactive and hiring only when you win contracts, okay? Then you have a burn-up time to get people online, okay? So we try to avoid that. So we're constantly looking at data that tells a story in our business. Now, 10 minutes left. I'm going to jump on two last items, the award policy and obviously how we deliver a payroll. Now, regardless of what awards, enterprise agreements, common law contracts, or anything you've made up on how you pay people, we will get those categories, or Thrive will, do the award interpretation in consultation with you, and then obviously we'll parallel run that to make sure what you told us is exactly how you pay people. I'm going to pick on for today's presentation the enterprise agreement example, and you can see here over time it's changed depending on whatever rules has changed in the organization. So I'm going to edit this one and just to show you an example of how the engine works. This is a blank canvas when the consultant sets you up from the beginning because we tailor it to your requirements. Yes, if you say, hey, we've got the clerical award, we can give you a base template, but no one pays exactly to a modern award, especially once you're kind of over that 50 employee mark. Everyone has their own ways to pay and interpret those awards, which is why we can start with a base template, work off it, or if it's completely different, just build it from scratch, which is very easy. So let me show you how a public holiday will work and the questions the consultants will ask you. So we're going to look at timesheet hours. We're then going to find from the library, we need to determine if it's a public holiday or not, and the way we need to determine that is using the rule called day type. By selecting day type, it's then going to ask me the question, is it a public holiday or is it not a public holiday? So very simple there. We will then ask you, is it work or not work? Work, not work, scheduled to work or not scheduled to work. Those 5 options can potentially all have a different outcome. And this is where the power is in the system or the dangers in the system, okay? So definitive is always right or it's always wrong. It's unemotional. So if there's a rule to do with people not being scheduled to work and be paid at higher loading because they weren't scheduled and called in, it needs to know that, okay? So then rosters have to be used, otherwise it will never know if it's scheduled or unscheduled, okay? We then ask you, is it part of the holiday, starting, ending, or majority of the time? Now, what that means in simple terms, if I do night shift, if I start on a Friday but finish on a Saturday, what is it? A Friday shift, Saturday shift, split at student shifts, part of the shift, or majority of the time in the shift? You see the principle, we're always right or we're always wrong. If you said, Roy, this is only for Queensland, you simply add a rule or what we call condition. How do I determine Queensland? Well, that's going to be based on location. The location is one of, and I'm going to pick Queensland, okay? So easy to add rules to the system. And then once you have tested the rule, what do you want to do with the outcome? Okay, they've worked a public holiday starting on that day. They belong to Queensland or they worked in Queensland. They're full-time and part-time, paid time and a half to the pay article public holiday work. per an hour, by or per rata. We can do it at your pay policy rate, day rate, all-purpose rate, specified, total package or accrued. We can cap you at your scheduled hours or up to a certain limit per day, per week, 28-day period, roster cycle, whatever we want. Now, we can, generally speaking, automate in excess, well in excess of 90+% of all payroll rules. We'll never guarantee 100% because there's some quirky stuff out there, but we're always closing that gap as we add more and more rules to the library. All right. So with that said, that's how it automates rostering, cost, and projections because it's running through the same engine. And to deliver a payroll, I leave it to the last minute because it's this easy. The payroll role is all about making sure the data in the system is correct. The employee and managers are doing the right timesheets, rosters, and approvals. And then payroll can check it in real time. They don't have to wait to the pay period coming up. So I'm in the future with my pay runs. And I'm going to pay the super just before Christmas. Okay. So if you're 100 employees in my organization that I had, the 100 employees are selected all attached to the fortnightly pay calendar. I simply select everyone and I hit calculate. This roughly takes about 1.5 minutes to calculate 1,000 employees across 6 awards on average. Okay. So you make a quick cup of coffee. And what this is doing while you make that cup of coffee is working out any payments due from the 29th of November to the 12th of December, time and a half, double time, penalty rates, whatever it's doing, plus any back pays prior to the 29th of November. So once you've quickly made that cup of coffee, hopefully it was an espresso, it's all there. And then we do what we call the non-time and attendance entries, commissions, bonuses, expense claims, terminations. They're your most common, or any other payroll payments that we couldn't automate or it's discretionary. Okay, so let's just say here, Lainey and Corey are salespeople. And they're getting commissions. Now I can do one person at a time, but I'm lazy. I can just do, right, they're gonna get their commissions. It's their quarterly commissions, Q3 STI payments. Okay, I've already got my 2 people. And this is just designed for fast entry, okay? So we're just trying to make it quick rather than opening each master record up. That will automatically tax that over the quarter, work out super, payroll tax, anything that's associated to it, and then I keep going. If I want to go, right, Sarah's looking like she's getting a high pay rate. Again, I can come in here. I can see a summary of what she's earning. Okay, and I go, oh, she's only getting 45 hours. Okay, that's ordinary. What is she actually doing? And I can see, okay, well, she only worked these dates. Oh, so she worked less dates than I expected. This is the hours, the paying. She's paid under the common law contract at a normal rate, and it's used rule 1.1. So you can always trace it back of how it got to the calculation. If you're wondering, oh, I don't agree with that. If you just need it again, she said, I wanted to get some annual leave cashed out. Again, you could just quickly add in a manual line item. We know cash out is taxed annually. She wants to do a week per your email on the 7th of November. Okay, that will put a note on the payroll reports as well as the pay slips. I can keep going, adding manual entries. I can even come out of here and it knows there's still one that hasn't been recalculated. It's been touched, but it hasn't been recalculated. And I can just hit refresh and do it all in bulk, okay? So it's designed for speed, but a payroll doesn't take long, right? The homework is up front. The homework's not at the payroll day, okay? All the checking and reporting should have been done prior. Once I'm happy, I've done all my checking and reports like you would in any system and technology. You hit verify. Oops, I've done paste messages. You download your ABA, load that into your bank, hit publish and lodge. It's your declaration to the ATO. That's all your STP obligations and your super, sorry, not your super, STP obligations and tax declarations, all in one clean sweep. We will notify you once the ATO receipts that with the receipt number, whether they accepted it, rejected it, or provided comments. Usually it's just accepted with the receipt number. But if anything's an issue, it will tell you what the issue is, okay? If you pay super monthly, quarterly, or whatever it is, generally speaking, you probably only have these 3 columns, but I've got every government scenario set up and some big global companies. So let's just say I'm going to pay these 2 pay runs, okay? And this is great because it allows you to do salary sacrifice and voluntary contributions. You can pay this with the pay. And then you can do your quarterly obligations, being your employer stuff, quarterly, okay? So it grabs those 2 super funds, the total value, and you can see the total value in this case is $16,693.99. Check my PDF reports, check my ERP, CFO is happy. You've got a couple of other reports in here, plus reporting in there. Submit. This does a pre-validation to the Super Gateway, making sure based on face value, will the Super Gateway accept your data? If there's issues, it will be in red, and that will say resubmit, not approved, and it will tell you what those issues are. You have to fix the issues, it won't let it go through. Warnings are stuff like this, fake tax on numbers, right? Cool, happy, hit approve, 16,693.99, hit approve, boom, that will direct debit my account. Usually it's done twice a day, one in the morning run, one in the evening, just like a normal big bank. And then again, we will then notify you when the direct debit physically occurs, when the direct debit's been cleared by the bank, when the money's gone to the super funds. If the super funds reject it for any reason, so usually the most common reason is someone's closed their super fund. It's all done through our emails and push notifications, and all the messages will be in here if you need to be notified. And again, it's all done in the one platform. Now, that's a very quick, high level of some of the features. There's so much more in here that Definitive can offer your organisation. So I guess I'll open it up to the floor if there's any questions.
They all sound stunned, Roy.
That's why we do record it, just because I had to talk 100 miles per hour to get everything in an hour. You know, Thrive would definitely be more than happy to book one-on-one presentations to go into your specific requirements if you've got any.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Roy.
Thanks,
everyone.
All right, I'll jump off now.
Thank you, Roy.
And thank you very much once again.